Subic Bay, a name that conjures images of a vibrant free port, stunning beaches, and a storied past. But in late summer 2025, this scenic bay became the stage for a baffling mystery. Viral posts and news reports showed hundreds of American military helicopters not preparing for flight, but being methodically dismantled under the tropical sun. The sight left Filipinos stunned and confused. Why would the US bring valuable military assets here only to tear them apart? The event sparked intense speculation. Was this a sign of shifting alliances or something deeper? For a nation with a long, complicated history with the US military, the image was both powerful and unsettling. This story is about more than helicopters. It's about history, alliances, and the future of the Philippine-American relationship. What's happening in Subic Bay is a national conversation starter, forcing us to question our past and our future. Join us as we investigate the mystery of the dismantled helicopters and what it means for Subic Bay and the Filipino nation. The answers may surprise us all. The story began in August 2025, when workers at Subic Bay International Airport noticed something strange. A vast section of the airfield was suddenly filled with rows of US military helicopters, Black Hawks, Chinooks, and more. At first, people assumed they were here for joint exercises or storage. But soon, crews of American contractors and local workers began dismantling them, piece by piece. Rotor blades were removed, engines and avionics stripped, and the fuselages cut down to scrap. The operation was massive, over 200 helicopters all brought in by sea and processed with military precision. The scale and visibility of the project were unprecedented, raising questions about transparency and the agreements that allowed it. These helicopters had served in missions worldwide, including disaster relief in the Philippines. Now, seeing them reduced to scrap on Philippine soil created unease and curiosity. Why here? Why now? The public display of this usually hidden process left everyone wondering what was really going on. The mystery deepened as more details emerged. What was the real reason behind this operation? To understand the significance, we must revisit Subic Bay's history. Once a vital US naval base, Subic was a symbol of American power in Asia for nearly a century. After the Spanish-American War, the US developed Subic into a major military hub. At its peak, it was a bustling American town, providing jobs but also stirring debates about sovereignty. In 1991, the Philippine Senate voted to end the US base lease, leading to a dramatic American withdrawal. Many feared economic collapse, but Subic reinvented itself as a thriving free port, yet the US connection never fully disappeared. Recent years have seen renewed military ties through agreements like the VFA and EDCA, allowing US troops and assets to return for joint exercises. Subic's strategic location keeps it central to US-Philippines defense cooperation. That's why the helicopter dismantling is so perplexing. It seems to contradict the trend of closer military partnership. Is this a sign of change, or just another chapter in a long, complicated relationship? Subic Bay remains a place where history and geopolitics collide. The shadow of the American presence still lingers, and now it's cast in the form of dismantled helicopters. Why dismantle these helicopters in Subic? Several theories have emerged. The simplest, logistics and cost. These aging helicopters may have reached the end of their service life, and scrapping them locally is cheaper than shipping them back to the US. Another reason, security. Modern helicopters contain sensitive technology. By dismantling them in a controlled environment, the US ensures nothing classified falls into the wrong hands. There's also a political angle. Conducting this operation in the Philippines could signal trust, or perhaps a shift in military aid policy. Some speculate these helicopters were once destined for the Philippine military, but plans changed. The operation is only possible under agreements like the VFA or EDCA, which may have been amended to allow this activity. Subic's skilled labor and facilities, built during the base years, make it an efficient choice. The project provides local jobs and economic activity, but the true motivation is likely a mix of cost, security, politics, and legal agreements. Ultimately, the dismantling is a complex decision shaped by multiple factors. It's not just about old helicopters, it's about control, trust, and the future of the alliance. The real answer may never be fully revealed, but the implications are clear. Every move in Subic sends a message, and everyone is watching. To grasp the impact, we spoke to people in Olongapo and around Subic Bay. For older residents, the sight of American helicopters being scrapped is bittersweet, a reminder of the base's heyday and its abrupt end in 1992. Mang Roberto, a former base worker, says, "These helicopters were symbols of our connection to America. Seeing them chopped up feels like an ending." Younger workers see it differently. For them, dismantling helicopters is just a job, good pay, but with uncertainty about what comes next. "We just follow instructions," says one laborer. "We wonder what happens when the work is done." Local businesses have mixed feelings. Some welcome the economic boost from foreign contractors and increased activity. Others worry about Subic's image. "We want to be a world-class destination, not a military scrapyard," says a hotel manager. Activists and nationalists see the operation as a reminder of unequal relations. "The Americans use our land for their military waste," argues one activist. The project has reignited debates about sovereignty, transparency, and the true cost of the alliance. For many, the dismantling is more than an economic event. It's a symbol of the ongoing struggle to define Subic's identity. The community's voices are diverse, but all agree. This is a moment of change. What comes after the last helicopter is gone remains uncertain. Subic's future is once again up for debate. As the story gained traction, both governments were pressed for answers. The Philippine Department of National Defense confirmed the dismantling was part of a U.S. demilitarization program, conducted safely and under existing agreements. The U.S. Embassy called it a routine fleet modernization, emphasizing cost efficiency, local job creation, and strict control over sensitive technology. Official statements insisted this was a logistical, not political operation. But experts and lawmakers weren't satisfied. "This could have been done in Guam or Japan," noted a retired general. "Why the Philippines?" Some senators called for an inquiry, demanding details on the agreement, environmental safeguards, and the benefits for the Philippines. Transparency, they argued, is essential to protect national interests. The official line answered some questions, but deeper concerns about strategy and sovereignty remain. The dismantling has become a test of trust between allies, and the public wants more than reassurances. They want the full story. The dismantled helicopters of Subic Bay offer a revealing look at the state of Philippines-US relations. On one hand, the operation signals trust and deepening cooperation, proof that the alliance is strong enough for sensitive projects. On the other, the lack of transparency fuels perceptions of inequality, with the Philippines as a junior partner. This dynamic can stoke nationalist sentiment and calls for a more balanced partnership. The incident also has regional implications. In a tense South China Sea, every U.S. move is closely watched. Allies may see this as modernization. Adversaries could misread it as a drawdown. The strategic message is complex, with consequences for Southeast Asia's balance of power. The future of the alliance depends on how both sides address public concerns and demonstrate mutual benefit. If managed well, the partnership could emerge stronger. If not, trust may erode. The Ghost Fleet is a test of the alliance's resilience and direction. Beyond geopolitics, the dismantling has had a real impact on Subic and Olongapo. The good news, hundreds of locals found temporary jobs, boosting family incomes and local businesses. Hotels, restaurants, and logistics firms saw a brief uptick in activity. But the boom is short-lived. Once the helicopters are gone, so are the jobs. Community leaders worry about dependence on foreign military projects and the lack of sustainable development. Environmental concerns also loom. Improper disposal of hazardous materials could threaten Subic Bay's ecosystem, tourism, and fishing industries. Officials promise safe handling, but any mishap could have lasting consequences. The community faces a familiar challenge: how to turn short-term gains into long-term prosperity. Subic's future depends on building a more resilient, diversified economy. The lessons of this project will shape the next chapter for the Bay. As the last helicopter is dismantled, Subic Bay stands at a crossroads. The episode highlights its enduring strategic value and the challenges of its U.S. military legacy. One path: deeper integration into the U.S.-Philippines defense framework, with Subic as a hub for logistics and technical jobs. Another, a push for economic independence, attracting diverse investments and reducing reliance on foreign military projects. Most likely, Subic's future will blend both paths, balancing security needs with economic ambitions. The key is clear agreements that prioritize Philippine interests and sustainable growth. The Ghost Fleet will fade, but the questions it raised about sovereignty and partnership will shape Subic's next chapter. The story of Subic Bay is far from over.